friendly noise. We're gonna sit and listen to each one. It's Long May You Young. All right, Mike, I gotta pause you for a second because we got a guest joining us slowly but surely. I don't know if you can hear us yet.
He's gonna hear me punching into my cord on.
Here he is.
Hey,
Patterson Hood from the Drive-By Truckers, everybody. What's up, Patterson?
P. Hood.
Hi, how you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm hanging in there.
Nice. How's life in
Cord on
Portland?
blue. Sorry.
It's good. It's good. What you eating there?
Frozen chicken cordon bleu.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, Russ decided during our interview with one of the founding members of the Drive-By Truckers would be a great time to have his dinner. So
I feel like
Right.
that would be disrespectful not to.
That's actually pretty fitting, I guess, because no one loves food more than me. So
That's what I figured.
we just got started a little while ago. We're getting into the album Freedom by Neil Young a little bit. But before we hop back in, I do want to say we're super excited to have Patterson Hood from the Drive-By Truckers on with us. They released 2 new albums this year, one way back in January called The Unraveling, and they a surprise release in October called The New OK, which is probably one of my top 5 albums of the year.
Awesome.
So Patterson, welcome to Long May You Young.
man, thanks so much, and thrilled to be here. And always love talking about Neil Young. He's way more fun to talk about than me. So,
Well, we'll hopefully do a little bit of both. So,
and thanks for the kind words about the new OK. I'm real happy with it, real proud of it, and seems like a lot of people are liking it the better of the two, which is cool, unexpected but cool, and so good.
yeah, man.
Really, like, it's definitely a document you can look back on at this time.
Yeah,
Really captures some of the feelings, some of the emotions on there. Like the Paradise Night, that's like just explains so much about what's going on right now.
I think, as a band, we've spent the majority of our 25 years this June as a band doing these little portraits of other places in time, hopefully with the idea of it somehow still being relevant today, whereas Southern Rock Opera was set in the 70s and during the George Wallace era, but I felt like there's probably parallels between, that and things that were happening at the time it came out. And Dirty South was, I guess, kind of moving into the 80s during the socio-political, during the Reagan era. And it came out in 2004, which was an election year, and all of that. But with these last 3 records, we've kind of been about the right here and right now. The last 3 records have been, really just addressing what was going on in the moment. And I'd like to think that when hopefully this time is over and we've all moved on from it, at very least these 3 records, kind of the starting with American Band in 2006 and then Unraveling and New OK, were kind of like a document and a snapshot of this really screwed up era that we've been going through, that I'm hoping we're going to find a way out of.
Yeah, I hope so too, man, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's like something like I'd, like maybe play for my grandkids.
Right.
What was 2020 like? Well, the New OK is a pretty good document about what was going on through people's minds, and observations on what's happening then.
Well, it's very interesting. So we started this podcast. So me and Russ, the guy who's eating the chicken cordon bleu, we're in a band called Town Meeting. And like every other band, we came to a halt in March.
Right. I like that name, by the way. That's cool. I like that.
Thanks, man. But so, we with no gigs, we knew we loved Neil Young. We knew Mike loved Neil Young. So we said, let's talk about Neil Young. It'll keep us sane during this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'd call it serendipitous or whatever, but we were hitting after the gold rush and harvest right almost to the day when George Floyd was murdered. So
man.
talk about like capturing a moment in history, and then like seeing how shit that came out in the fucking early 70s and late 60s is somehow still relevant today. It just, I don't know, it speaks to
Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad?
So sad.
I mean, it's really sad to me that Alabama and Southern Man are relevant today.
I think,
Right.
And they really are. And that's coming from a huge Neil Young fan who loves both of those songs. But I would much rather at this point in history love them as a snapshot of some dark time we lived through than being relevant today.
Right.
I saw Neil the summer before last. I saw him by far the best Neil Young show I've ever been to. I've probably been to about 10, and I've always had kind of mixed luck about Neil Young shows, but I got lucky and I caught one of those nights I always dreamed of getting to see. And he played Alabama, and It was one of the most hair-raising, stunning things, seeing that live in an arena that I've ever seen. It was incredible. And so it's just amazing. That's one of the beautiful things about songs is, you just never know, because they do have these afterlives, sometimes really unexpectedly. I mean, the guys in Big Star thought their records were going to be huge, and then they were dismal failures. And then all these years later, everybody loves Big Star. Sadly, most of them didn't live to see it, but so you just never know. And of course, Neil Young, is one that particularly, I mean, no one's ever written a better protest song than Ohio, which, was written within 48 hours of Kent State shooting, and was out as a single within something like 2 weeks or something.
It's the craziest part. I think it was less than that, wasn't it? It was like a couple days after or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a totally different time for the music industry where you could do something like that. I think there was just because there were less lawyers involved.
Oh yeah. But at the same time right now, and there's a lot I can really bitch about right now with the state of the music industry, because as we all know, they have rendered it just, next to impossible to make a living except for playing live, which of course this year that went away. And so
thank God for Bandcamp Fridays.
Oh my God. Yes. I mean, literally, I wouldn't still be in this room, because we would have lost our house if it wasn't for that. And but one advantage of all of it is, I mean, I wrote the new OK on the last week of July, and I wrote Watching the Orange Clouds the first week in June. Both of those songs centered on the George Floyd protests in Portland, which of course became, international news because they sent the feds in on us, and it was a total. Can I cuss? I'm on the.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, it became a total clusterfuck. Always good to ask first. And, I don't want anybody getting.
You have consent.
Okay. I don't want anybody getting fined on my. It's happened, but the clusterfuck it became, and we were able to release. We were not as fast as Ohio, but still pretty breakneck speed. We had the new OK out as a single on the internet within 6 weeks of when I wrote it, and had the album out within 8 weeks of when I wrote that song, which is
crazy. Just from people who do that on a much smaller scale than you guys. It's
and
insane.
we'll have vinyl in a week. The vinyl comes out, I think, a week from Friday, thankfully. So, we never normally would ever want to release a record without our vinyl, but it just seemed important to get it, to try to be as much like Ohio as possible. It's like right now and right this moment, it's a snapshot of a moment. Let's get it out there. And we put together a video that utilized protest footage, and I think I'm really proud of the video, and I'm someone that
video's great.
Hates videos, but I'm real proud of what was done with that, and I think it gives the song an extra life, which is a best case scenario.
Oh yeah,
I definitely wanted to touch on that for sure with you, Patterson, because to go back to what Luke was saying about when we were coming up to those albums, and then atropos to whatever was going on in the world, in this country especially. But when we got to those songs, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but I think the day after I just got back from the Boston Black Lives Matter
It was
protest.
the day after, yeah.
And then we recorded the day after, and we were covering that album. And so I was fresh off of that. So I was like fired up. I was, I was heated, and and I was like, this is crazy that I just came from this fucking protest and now we're covering these songs, and it's been 40 something more than that years, and it's the same shit, if not even more, and so I wanted to talk to you about that, because I was listening to a podcast you were just on, and man, it was socially something about social, something about sociology. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It was like a professor maybe out of Florida that did it. Yeah.
Really cool. And I was listening to your interview there, and you were talking about your experience being there in Portland, and you were mentioning how it was almost like you could set your clock to when they would start, and when I say they, I mean whatever, the police or whoever you were talking about that hired. Yeah, and I had a very similar situation when I was in Boston, because we were coming into the Common, and I don't know if you're familiar with Boston too much, but we were coming into the Common, and you started to see these weird sort of barricades, and then everything was great. It was all peaceful. It was all wonderful. There was like basically how you described it, mostly just a feeling of joy but also anger a little bit, but in a powerful, passionate way. And then it was the same thing.
A productive kind of anger, not a destructive kind of anger.
And the only time we ever saw anything while we were marching was there was like some white kid that was spray painting a window, and then all of us like got on him, and we were like, get the fuck out of here, and that was taken care of quickly. Nothing bad.
Saw some of that too.
Yeah. So, but once it got dark, it was like it hit a certain point, and then it was like the flip of a switch. Everyone was fine, and then you just see this police cruiser come screaming down out of nowhere, out of nothing, towards protesters, and then so everyone starts running from the police car, and then all of a sudden they're throwing tear gas, and then it's just like, and then they were all there, all ready to go, and it was just like something like you said on yours. It's like they are like, oh, okay, here we go, let's start fucking, throwing tear gas and beating the shit out of people, and
it's 11:29 and the shit comes down.
It was exactly that, and someone who was with me was like, up until about a week ago, it would start right at about 11:59, and then all of a sudden one day they just moved it up 30 minutes, and I mean, it's ridiculous, and so much of what I saw. I mean, there's going to be, anytime you have a crowd of people, there's going to be an asshole. There's going to be an asshole that's going to act up and do something that should not be a reflection on the greater group. It's just something.
The hundreds of thousands of people who are there, peacefully, So, and then like you said, you were saying, the media totally takes a certain aspect of it and blows it up, and I don't know. There's just so many routes and avenues to go with all this that we're in such a crazy time. And
the day after I was at actually the night I was at the protest, I was posting stuff on Instagram, pictures I was taking from it, and just my comments about the general vibe. And then the next day when I was scrolling through the hate mail,
Jesus.
And vast majority of which was from people who've never been to my city, who've never been to Portland, and it was just these predictable lines of attack from them, and it was really depressing, and then I would check out the coverage in the news, including the so-called liberal media, and from people that should know better. I mean, you kind of expect Fox News to say the bullshit they're going to say, but people that should know better's coverage didn't reflect what I saw with my own eyes when I was there. And I
saw the same thing.
Got super depressed about it, and I actually wrote the new OK as that's when I'm depressed. That's usually my best way of dealing with it, is to try to write through it. And And so that was basically, that became the new okay, that song.
So when you're dealing with that hate mail sort of thing in the digital age, especially when I know that you're talking about live footage from the protests, and I sort of had, on a smaller level, had the same sort of thing happening to me. I also had people being very encouraging, of course. But,
yeah, sure.
But when it comes to an album like the new okay and the stuff you've put out this year, have you sort of, I guess, I don't know if this is the right phrase, but have you gotten used to that? Because like Luke and I, for instance, we're brothers, we're in a band, and we've always thought we've been pretty like upfront about where we stand with things.
We definitely have been. It's just this year.
I mean, it's not like we've never been hiding it, but I guess people just see what they want to see, and maybe it's like a, what do you call it, a confirmation bias or something. But this year especially, we have lost a bunch of fans and followers because
fuck them, man. Fuck them. Like, I'm sorry.
You know, and I'm posting something about probably like Ray Shard or something, and I get all these fans who are like, you know, you should really and it's like, I'm wondering now, with everything you've been putting out, are you sort of used to that? Has that affected the fan base, the followers? Not that it fucking matters. Who gives a shit?
Yes and no. You know, I've got pretty thick skin when necessary, and if I believe in what I'm doing and believe in what we're doing, and we're all unified as a band and as a family, both the band family and my family here, as long as that's all solid, I can deal with anything. You can bring it on, motherfuckers. I'll take you on. I've got, you know, if I know the band's got my back and we got each other's back and my family's supportive of it, then we're fine. We'll be, we can ride out whatever. You know, we went into American Band with that attitude, and it was, you know, it was really shitty for a week or two, and then those assholes moved on to something else, and
they do.
We ended up with a stronger, much better fan base than we had before. And you know, I don't think the numbers were affected negatively for people who look at that. But as far as the experience out there in the room playing shows on tour, oh God, I miss it. You know, that was it was better because it ran off the assholes. All of a sudden, that drunk dude with his backwards baseball cap, who doesn't know how to act in a crowd or around, God forbid, girls we might have in the audience.
That's Mike. That's Mike Shue, by the way.
That's not me. That's
when you know, that guy all of a sudden got pissed off and quit coming, and then all of a sudden, all those people that guy was pissing off, they were all having a better time and coming back, and you know, we started drawing more girls. You know? And you know, I don't know, maybe girls don't dig incel music, I don't know, you know, whatever, but it got better. And so the storms for the record since then, it's kind of been that. But the thing this summer did bother me, partly because I'm probably not in as strong a place as I might normally be, because I don't have my band with me and I'm not out doing what I do. And so I've been like a fish out of water a lot of the time this year. And I've had darker, harder times with depression this year than I've had since I was 27, which was a really long time ago, and over half my life ago. And so, you know, it's been tough. And so it did bother me more. And it just bothered me for my kids. It bothered me to see that this is how I knew we had an election coming up, and to see that what was happening in Portland, which I viewed as very much a political act of fuck you from the president towards the left and towards the blue states in the start, to see it kind of working, to see that people were actually buying into it, and even some mainstream media was portraying it the way he wanted it portrayed, really depressed me, and really depressed me and made me angry. And that song totally came out of that, as well as the decision to put out this record, which, you know, we had no plans to make another record this year. I mean, that was, you know, we were going to be touring behind the perfectly new record we already had. And
Right.
and when the idea first was presented to me to maybe put out a record this year, the first thing out of my mouth was, "Oh, great! Now we can have 2 brand new records we can't tour behind." Yeah, great idea, you know. And it was crazy, you know. And then I was ranting about the idea to my wife, and she was like, "You know, I think they're right. I think you should put this record out. I think it should come out right now. I think you should get those songs out, and, you know, whether it's as a single or an EP or whatever it takes, Watching the Orange Clouds and You OK need to come out yesterday."
Yeah.
And whatever is the best way to facilitate getting them out and seen by the most people is what you should be doing. And, you know, the next morning I woke up, it's like, "Hey, let's do this thing." And it's like, you know, and I started going through what we had recorded in various states of completion, you know, and we had some stuff that was mixed and mastered. We had some stuff that was strictly like a guitar part and a drum part and a scratch vocal. We had all this different stuff. And I'm like, man, there's an album here that I think we can make happen, even with us all on different sides of the country, because I'm out in Oregon and the rest of them are in 3 states in the South, you know. So it's like, I think we can do this. And
so you did it cross country then?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
We cut Watching the Orange Clouds, The Distance, and the New OK cross country.
Holy shit.
And we always record live in a room. I mean, you know, 9 out of 10 songs are basically live albums just in a room. Maybe some overdubs from guitar or you know, a new vocal track and some harmonies or something. But generally the performance is the band live in the room with, you know, like, I mean, a handful of exceptions in our entire catalog. But that wasn't going to be possible. And so but I wanted it to sound like I didn't want it to sound different than the stuff we'd already recorded in Memphis that was live in the room. And so I'm so proud of my band because I feel like they nailed it. I feel like you really would not be able to tell which songs were which if I didn't run my mouth talking about them. And but yeah, you know. And so I cut a demo in this room. I sent it to our drummer, and he went into David Barbee's studio, which is in Athens where he lives. And he put a master drum track down for those 2 songs using what I'd done up here, and then sent that back to me. And I went into a studio with like nicer microphones and shit than I've got, and did a master guitar and vocal track. And then we sent it to the rest of the band, and they put their parts on.
That's crazy.
Cooley did his stuff at his house, you know, his banjo and slide parts on Distance and all that. He just did it at his house. And Matt Patton has a studio in Water Valley where he lives. That's what he does when he's home, is he runs a studio. So he went in there and did his parts there. And Jay did his parts, I think, in our practice space, and which is next door to David's studio. So it was all, you know, and it was super quick. I mean, when it was finished it was mixed and mastered, and artwork, liner notes, everything for the vinyl done within 6 weeks of the day we decided we were going to do it.
Wow. Crazy. The artwork is great, by the way. I fucking love
thank you. I'll tell Wes, but thank you on Wes's behalf. I think he outdid himself. I was wanting to have a Wes coverage. We've done photo covers the last 2 albums, and I was wanting to do another Wes cover. And I thought, this being the 3rd and what's kind of become an unintended trilogy of records, it'd be perfect to have him do the cover. And I mentioned the idea to him of just, you know, doing a cover for it. And I sent him, you know, where we were, the roughs or whatever of what we had. And the next day he sent me a sketch of what it was. And the second I saw that stand, you know, for that monument stand with the graffiti on it, I was just like, oh my God, that's it. It's like, we can use this. No, I'm working on the real thing. You know, it's like hold your horses, you know. And then a day later he had it.
Has that been all of the covers? Do you send him the music or what you have finished, and then he kind of works off of what he hears?
Yep, always.
That's awesome.
Yeah, with never the less input from me or anyone else, the better. Anytime I've had input for him, it's probably just, it's probably just slowed him down. But because his ideas are usually better than mine would be anyway. But and of course he's in Richmond, so he saw that every day. He saw those monuments come off of those stands as it was happening every day, and the graffiti and all that. So that kind of tied Richmond to Portland to Richmond too, which is important too, because Richmond was one of our first towns as a band where we had a following.
Well, that's where I first saw you. It was at the Cracker Dirtball Barn Dance at Alley Cats down in Shockoe Bottom.
Oh yeah.
You guys, I don't know if you remember.
Which one? Alley Cats was the first one.
That was the first.
Very first.
That was the first time you were, I think, in town. I'm not sure, but you guys didn't even play on stage. They had you set up on the floor, like on the side.
Oh, was that the one with Cracker?
Yeah, that was with Cracker, and they had Joe Osborne there that night.
Yeah, that was probably the fourth or fifth one we did, but that was cool because that was playing. I mean, Cracker was we were a little bitty band and they were a great big band, and so it was really, really special getting to do that. And
I remember being there with a bunch of friends, and then they said, "Hey, our friends at Drive-By Truckers are going to play a set." And then you started playing, and you were like over here, like on the side of the bar. And I'm like, Who the fuck are those guys? And then by the end of your set, we were all like, who the fuck were those guys?
Oh, thank you.
They were fucking good, man. That was a memorable night. But that was the first time, because I lived in Richmond through most of the 90s. And
the Harveys were at that show that night.
Yeah,
they were there. I actually remember having a pretty long conversation with them that night after our set, hanging out with them at the merch table. They came to a lot of our shows, and they even came to like an afternoon thing we did at some little restaurant pub place, and I can't remember now what street it was on, but they came one afternoon with their kids, and their kids, they all had little headphones on and all that. So that was a special show. Richmond special to us.
Yeah, just to explain who Brian Harvey is, he was in this band called House of Freaks in the 80s, which was one of the first like duo bands.
Oh, they were awesome.
Right. Just a guitar player and drummer. And they were from Richmond, and super talented musicians, great songwriters. And he was later in like Guttermouth.
Yes, Gutterball. Was it Gutterball?
Was it Gutterball?
Yeah, with Steve Wynn.
Right, with Steve Wynn from Dream Syndicate and stuff. And unfortunately, this horrible thing happened. There was a home invasion. They ended up killing him, his wife, and his kids, and setting his house on fire.
Oh, God.
You guys did.
New Year's Day, 2000.
Yeah.
New Year's Day.
I had moved back to Massachusetts at that time, and I remember reading that in the paper, and just I couldn't breathe. It was.
I was on the phone with Wes Freed. Wishing him Happy New Year's when they got the word that it had happened, and of course they were old friends. And,
right.
So I was actually on the phone when they got word, and it was awful. It was horrific. And,
that's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Now, I know you guys did you guys do a show at Plan 9 Records?
Yeah, it just came out as a live record,
right.
Like for Record Store Day, it just came out. It was a benefit for the Harvey Foundation that they set up in their honor, and at the Plan 9 record store in Richmond, which was directly across the street from Catherine Harvey's toy store, World of Earth, which is still there and still operating. But so it was kind of ground zero for the people who really loved them and the most. And it was in our band, I wrote a song about them called Two Daughters and a Beautiful Wife.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I remember, but I bring that. I never thought I'd see the day where those monuments would come down on Monument Avenue. If you guys never been to if you've never been to Richmond, there's Monument Avenue, and it was Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee and Jeb Stuart.
Wow.
And
all those gems.
Yeah, the heroes of the Confederacy, basically. When we moved down there, me and my Yankee friends used to call it the Avenue of Second Place Trophies, and that would piss people off to no end, And I remember when they put
the monument stand was it Stonewall Jackson on our album cover? I think it's the Stonewall Jackson.
Is it the Stonewall Jackson one
on our cover? I hope I'm not wrong, but I think it is. Yeah.
I know that when they broke ground for the Arthur Ashe statue, you guys know who Arthur Ashe is, the tennis player?
Yeah.
African-American guy who was denied playing in the tennis courts in Richmond because of his race. So they wanted to put a statue up there. It was one of the longest, most painful processes ever to get his statue up on that. But it happened.
Oh, good.
One of the greatest stories at the groundbreaking, they all came out, the Klan, the Nazis, the fascists, everybody was there. And the Richmond police, all these Nazis came from Roanoke, Virginia, and the Richmond police towed all their vans. It was friggin' awesome.
That's fucking great.
Yeah. But,
it's funny that you mentioned that, Mike, because my baby was at that show, and weirdly enough, the KKK took my baby away.
That is a well-placed cover, sir, Mr. Hood. Well-placed cover.
At first, he was like, "What the fuck? What?"
That is
wow.
It really.
Yeah. How's that for a segue? Good job, Luke.
I give David Barbie full credit, besides the Ramones for and Joey Ramone for writing such a great song, but. We were in Memphis. We went to Memphis for a week in the fall of 2018 and ended up recording 18 songs. And the majority of the unraveling and probably the slight majority of the new OK came from those sessions. We just had this magical week of we were there 85 hours that week in the studio, and we've been on tour all summer, opening for Tedeschi Trucks Band.
Awesome.
And so we were, and we spent every sound check that summer, working on our new material for the upcoming studio time. So we went in there just on fire and just knocked it out. And we had finished the last take of the last song, and we're literally about to start packing up because we were leaving the next day to go back on the road. And David Barbie came in, our producer came in out of the control room and goes, "Stop what you're doing before you pack anything up. Everyone's all set up. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to play one take. KKK took my baby away." And we've been covering it. We've been playing it live since American Band came out because it just fit the set, and it had become strangely, unfortunately timely, Yeah. And so we've been playing it, and so we literally, it's one take live on the floor.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
We just set up a 58 for Matt Patton. He sings lead vocal on our bass player. And we had just cut the unraveling a little bit earlier that night. So there was a 58 set up just for him to do a live vocal, scratch vocal for. That's the vocal on the take. That's the record.
Fucking awesome.
It makes that even more punk rock.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The only overdub was we all gathered around one microphone and did the gang vocals for the choruses right after we did the take.
Nice.
And the whole thing was less than 10 minutes. And
that's awesome.
So when we were going through to put together the new OK, and I realized we had that already mixed even, because we mixed all that stuff. And I think we even mastered all that stuff from those sessions when we were putting together the unraveling. And I was like, man, this is an album. This is the end. This is the cherry.
Yeah.
It's great. It actually reminds me something else I wanted to bring up was in that podcast, which I wish I could remember the name, but I'm such an asshole.
Come on, Russ, man.
But because it's got, I don't know, it's something, whatever. But you mentioned, you were talking about, because he was asking you about what people try to label you guys as, and you were talking, and you sort of got into that discussion about genre. And this is something Luke and I struggle with all the time, because folks don't know how to label us either, and we're not sure where we fit in as far as genre goes. And I just loved in the new OK that you guys ended with that, because it's like, oh, you just always are sort of playing with that, and it reminds me a lot of Neil too, where Neil doesn't give a fuck about genre or whatever you're going to label him, and I really think that maybe that influence comes out in your music as well, where you can't hold you guys down to any specific thing. And
I hate subgenres as far as, to me, they're limiting. And, I guess they work for some bands that embrace that kind of thing, and that's fine, but it's never been where we are. Because to me, we're a rock and roll band. And, if you can call us whatever you want to, some of the thing we get called the most, it's probably the thing I hate the most, which is being called Southern rock. Because to me, it's just, a redundant phrase for any band after 1977.
Yeah.
The only way I'm comfortable with that is if you're also calling Outkast and REM Southern Rock and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
If you call the three of them Southern Rock, then you can call us that too.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it just makes me cringe because I don't think of us as that. We made an album about that, but that don't mean that's what we are. Neil Young wrote a song about racists, but he's not a racist.
Right.
It's
Right.
just, it's so.
Neil Young wrote a whole goddamn rockabilly album. He's not a rockabilly.
And he sure the fuck ain't rockabilly. And I'm not sure he even was on that record, but
that's a good point.
I love Neil, but here's a funny aside. We'll probably to segue into Neil Young. When we were in Memphis recording, we had our live sound engineer that tours with us. We used him as an assistant engineer and just he just helped us. He was our guy in the studio that week who just took care of everything for us. And he also drove us. We all lived together for the week in this Airbnb we rented. And so he drove us back and forth. He was our designated driver too. And his name's Henry Barbie. He's David Barbie's son, who's our producer. And we love him. And he was on water phase. So every night
coming back.
Every night on the drive back to the house, we listened to Landing on Water.
The world.
Up.
Jesus. Luke was the only one of us that actually enjoyed that.
Email him ahead of time and tell him to mention Landing on Water.
No, I did not. I swear
yeah,
to
Luke,
God,
you set something up, didn't you?
I swear to God, I did not. But
You're a
Landing on Water fucking
douchebag.
rocks, and I'll go down with this whole fucking ship telling you that Landing on Water fucking kicks ass. Fuck you guys, all right?
Good.
Henry's got your back on that. Henry's made me appreciate it more than I did, but I can't go as far as to say I actually really enjoy it. But Henry can make a really valid argument in favor of Landing on Water being seriously underrated.
You know who else can is the producer, Danny Korchmar. We talked to him, and we didn't get off on the right foot too much because
I immediately told him it was the Neil Young's worst album ever, and he, nobody likes to hear they suck. And he was like, "Well, I think it's one of the best things I've ever done in my career." I'm like, "Okay, you've worked with friggin' Simon and Garfunkel and James Taylor and
Phil Collins
and Jackson Brown,
John Lennon,
and John Lennon, and that's really you're putting Landing on Water up there with some of the best stuff you've ever done. Fuck that.
That's awesome.
Dude. The Cooch, yeah, he was a cool guy, but he didn't like hearing that some of us didn't enjoy the record too much.
Yeah, right. But to his defense, who wants to hear that in the first 10 minutes of an interview?
I just wanted to be upfront and honest, and let him know where the field he was playing on.
Which brings us to what we wanted to say was that none of us like drive-by truckers.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, Gangsta Billy was.
No, we only like Jason Isbell. We don't. Just kidding.
You're not alone.
let's talk about Southern Rock Opera and why did you incorporate the legend? There's so many different stories around the legend and the back and forth between Neil Young and Lynyrd Skynyrd and their reaction to Alabama and stuff. So why was that like the starting point for Southern Rock Opera?
It was a very big part of the reason for there being Southern Rock Opera, because it tied it into the civil rights struggle. And, I view that record as primarily kind of an examination of growing up in the post-civil rights South, or the so-called post-civil rights South in the era of Wallace in the 70s. My first grade class was the second year of it being integrated at my school.
Oh, wow.
And, that's how old I am. But yeah, it was if I'd been a first grader a year earlier, it would have been the first year of an integrated first grade class.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So that's not that long ago. And sadly, it's, unfortunately, we progressed quickly, and then we just stopped progressing. There was a point right after that where things really progressed, and then it just stopped, and we can get into bad-mouthing Ronald Reagan if you want to from there. But
we've done that for the past 4 episodes. So.
Yeah, we've been in
we've been in the 80s for a while
right now with these records.
Yeah.
So we've been doing our fair share of that.
Yeah. But yeah, so it all tied in. I had the idea for the song way before I wrote the song. It got to a point to where we were zeroing in on time to make the record, and I still hadn't written the song. I had the name. It was Ronnie and Neil. I had the whole idea of it, but I hadn't actually sat down and actually made it happen. And it's like, God damn, I need to write that fucking song, you know? And but then I did. But then that week, I guess once I decided it's time to write the fucking song, I wrote it. And I got real lucky with, you know, it's weird because the writing of that album was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And we had so much fun writing that album. And the process behind it all was just amazing. And a period of like really rapid growth, I think, for all of us as artists. And it was just a joyful thing. That's probably a big part of why the band was able to do what it did and stayed together and all of that. Because we would be on touring behind Gangsta Billy and Pizza Deliverance and Alabama Ass Whooping. And that's what we'd talk about. You know, when we get tired of all our cassettes and wanted to take a break from listening to the same box of cassettes or whatever, we would talk, and we didn't want to sit around and talk about us, you know, or talk about, you know, how pissed off our wives were at home while we were out doing this, which was probably what we would have been talking about. We would talk about the rock opera, and it was fun to talk about. It was like, and we came up with some of the worst ideas you can imagine. You know, I mean, there were some just horrifically bad ideas, some of which became songs and some of which made the record, you know, and I mean, I think the record itself was a bad idea, which is kind of part of the beauty of it. And so, because on paper, it's an awful idea, you know, there's nothing about it that's a good idea. And we kind of reveled in that. I mean, we'd tell people about it. We were sleeping on people's floors back then. And, you know, that was how we toured. We couldn't afford motel rooms. And so we would.
That's us right now.
Yeah. So we crashed on floors. And so.
When we could.
Yeah.
That became part of the show. Is like we'd go back to their houses and we would regale them with stories about the rock opera, and then we'd watch their eyes glass over. And at some point, they would just go off to bed. then we could get some sleep, you know. And so because it was such a bad idea, and we loved that about it.
Well, I say thank fucking God for that album, and not just Ronnie and Neil. Ronnie and Neil, obviously. A fucking classic song, and I think we touched on it probably on either the After the Gold Rush or the Harvest album, but also like there's stuff on that album where you talk about Neil even more that people don't talk about is is it called Three Great Alabama Legends or Icons? Yeah, and that's a fucking history lesson in a song, and it's shit that I didn't know about George Wallace and a lot of shit, because growing up in Massachusetts you hear one thing. Right. And it was, I don't know, very eye-opening tune, and also just so well done.
I like to say that growing up in Massachusetts, my education of the South was Gone with the Wind and the Dukes of Hazzard. And that's what I thought the South was until I moved down there.
Right.
You know, so we had a very narrow view of what was going on in the South. So Southern rock opera really told a lot of stuff that, you know, that we weren't too familiar with. And, you know, which made me realize, well, that's kind of like how I grew up, you know, taking acid and going to see shows and, you know, when I shouldn't be sneaking out of the house. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, they were doing that too. And not everybody's a racist. And, you know.
And I mean, you know, even today, you know, Trump won Alabama by, I guess, 62% or something this time. I mean, some awful percentage. But then when you look at the numbers closer, you realize that means Biden got about 40% of the vote, and 40% of a state that size, that's over 1 million people who feel as strongly against Trump as we do, you know, who went through the hell of voting during COVID in a state that didn't do a lot to make it easier for you to vote against that. And so, you know, and so to paint it all as one swath, I mean, yeah, the majority may be this, but the minority is still a lot of people who feel the way we do. And, and so that's always kind of been our operating thing is this is who we're singing to and what we're singing about. And, you know,
it's
can't do anything about the others.
It's the duality of the Southern thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We're talking about I mean, can we move on to freedom?
Well, before we do that?
Yeah.
I got to piss more than I've ever had to piss in my life. Can we take a break?
Well,
or we can, or if you guys are cool, just talking.
I just wanted to ask you a thing because you mentioned REM, and then I wanted to bring up
take a piss while you do that.
The Patterson Hood and the Downtown 13, and that's with Mike Mills, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that must be a strange sort of thing that you had. Do you guys still do stuff or?
Oh, I wish. I hope at some point. I'd love to do something else with him. God, what he did was beautiful on that song too. Just the piano thing he put on there was just like, it was like, God, I wish we had that on the whole song. But yeah, I mean, I'm friends with those guys. You know, awesome. I lived in Athens for 21 years, and you know, and there were a couple of moments there, particularly towards the end of it, where I had those moments where I was like, man, 19-year-old me would not believe this is happening. You know, it's like that 19-year-old me that would road trip to see REM, you know, wherever it took to see them, because they sure didn't come to my town. And is not going to believe that I'm sitting here in their practice space watching them rehearse to get inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or seeing them play a friend's wedding at a bowling alley. Crazy. Which that was the original REM lineup in like 2006, 2007. You know, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, they were one of those bands that, you know, when you talk about, you mentioned Southern rock, and that kind of changed. That they're one of the bands that kind of changed all that, along with, you know, other bands from Athens like the B-52s and like Pylon, you know, and bands like that. What were some of the other bands around that time?
Those were the bands that changed my perception of where I was. I mean, you know, I was the kid growing up that couldn't wait to get the fuck out of my hometown, which is really ironic because I was 30 before I actually succeeded. But I couldn't wait to get the fuck out of my hometown. It's like, I mean, at 11 years old, if you'd asked me, it's like, oh, I'm going to New York City as soon as I can, you know. And then I still hadn't, you know, lived in New York. But So it was strange, but REM in particular, but to another extent, you know, the North Carolina bands of that era, Let's Active and DBs, who I loved, still love the DBs, and B-52s, Pylon, all those bands really shaped my perception of being a musician in the South. And, you know, that tying in with, of course, you know, the Muscle Shoals history, you know, which I've always been fiercely proud of that. So, you know, all of that was a very big part of, you know, shaping what we wanted to do, you know, way more than, you know, Leonard Skinner, who, you know, I'm not bad mouthing it, but cause I love those old records, but, you know, they didn't speak to me as a teenager like REM did.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Luke, do you want to get into freedom?
So badly do I want to get into freedom. But do you guys want to take a break? I feel bad. I just pissed for 5 minutes. Sorry. This is Long May You Young, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Patterson, like, we don't want to keep you either. Like, we don't want to like dominate your time. I mean, how much time do we have with you?
I'm fine right now. I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's hit it.
Yeah, we usually this will probably be the part where we go sort of song by song and get into the record. But so I guess it's sort of up to you if you want to be here for this. I mean, we're
I'll hang in there. I love Freedom. Freedom's a really important record to me, and it was an important record for what I was doing musically at that moment in time too, because in '89 I was still playing with Cooley, who I still play with, in Adam's House Cat, our band. That was our ill-fated 80s band. It was a dismal failure on every front. And
can you find that still? I didn't look into it too much to
it
find
came out. Our album that we made finally came out 3 years ago. And
so is it like, can I find it on Spotify or something?
It is yeah. It's
Okay.
called
I gotta find that.
I'm proud. I love that record.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of it. But we were going through a period of probably thinking about breaking up even when Freedom came out. And I was delivering pizzas for Godfather's Pizza, and Cooley was cooking pizzas for Godfather's Pizza, and Freedom came out, and that's what I had playing in my car while I was delivering pizzas.
Pizza Deliverance.
Pizza Deliverance,
Yeah.
And I became just obsessed with it. And I'd grown up around Neil Young. My dad was a huge Neil Young fan. I'd grown up, of course, Dad was a bigger fan of the Harvest. The Harvest after the Gold Rush stuff was the stuff.
Well, your dad was a session guy, right?
Right. So he liked the stuff that was, less rowdy and punk rock probably than the stuff that really affected me. But we had a lot of common ground in our love for Neil Young. But, and of course, the 80s, those records tried, even hardcore Neil Young fans' patience. And so I'd definitely gotten out of the habit of
freedom was the freedom, man. Freedom was the freedom.
Yeah. And then I saw him do Rockin' in the Free World on Saturday Night Live, like everyone else in that era, with that, with Steve Jordan and all of them backing him up. And I mean, I became obsessed. And my soundtrack for that fall were Lou Reed's New York record and Neil Young's Freedom. And it's man, there's this it's like, rock and roll is back, baby. Rock and roll is back. It's like it's socially relevant. It's important. And I think it energized our band. I think it energized House Cat into moving forward. I can remember going over to Cooley's house the night I bought Freedom, or his apartment, and cranking it up and Crime in the City playing, and then what's the song after Crime in the City?
Don't Cry.
Yeah, Don't Cry.
Yeah.
And what's the one after that? What's the one that's got that just abyss sounding guitar? It's like
Don't Cry.
That's Don't Cry.
Don't Cry, when the guitarist comes in and it's just like
Don't Cry.
I just remember when that happened, the look on Cooley's face, and we just pushed the button and started it over. It's like, we got
yes.
It's like, it's go time. It's that kind of record, And,
dude. Don't cry.
You're gonna think we're making this up, but it sounds like what you're saying is that Neil Young saved your band.
Yeah,
and
sure, of course.
You're gonna literally think that we're fucking with you. Neil Young actually saved me and Luke's our band.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was last year. We were going through a pretty tumultuous time.
2 years ago, Russ, man. You losing track of time.
Jesus Christ. Well, this year it's all fucked.
This year's a wash. That's a good point.
2 years ago, we were in this pretty, really strange time. We lost a couple band members, and it seemed like things were unraveling. And, we started covering, we'd always sort of cover Neil Young, but
Russ, this was the first Neil cover we did. We covered the band. We covered Petty. We had never. So we're not a cover band, Patterson. We do all
original music. But every
we'll
once
throw
in
in
a while,
like anyone. We'll throw in a cover if we enjoy it. And but me and Russ have loved Neil Young forever. But like halfway through this year, we just all learned Down by the River. Oh, sorry, 2 years ago. We all learned Down by the River at the same time. Like weirdly enough, and shit just hit the fan, and it hit it hard. And we had booked, like any band, 6 months out, and we knew we had to finish these shows with these certain band members. And so we would go to some of these shows. We were playing in Michigan. We actually played in Portland for the first time. I don't even remember the place. One of the McMenamin's places. I don't even remember where it was. But we started playing Down by the River, and some of us weren't even talking to each other. But then when we played this song, we just fucking like zoned into each other. And you know that feeling when you're playing for the crowd, you're playing off the crowd, it's going back and forth, but then you hit a moment where you don't give a shit anymore, and it's just who you are on stage, and you just fucking you lose focus of everything else. And we started really, I don't know, it was
yeah, it's like all the bullshit that we had personally between each other, especially because we're three of us are brothers in the band.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know. And so
Bless your hearts, man.
so a lot of that, it was like this moment every time we fucking played Neil where it all just like melted away. I know it's cliche, but like it just, he really fucking brought us back to remembering that it's the music, you know, and
right.
And so it's so crazy to hear you say that Neil sort of had that same, not, I mean, obviously it's different, but
it's different. Yeah.
It seems like what you're saying is that Neil was a big influence on kind of bringing you into a different direction with the band that sort of saved it in a way, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. It listening to that record made a lot of the different loose ends of the different things we were trying to do or be. It tied them all. It made them all make sense that we didn't have to pick one or the other. It's like, wait a minute, this is what it is. It's let's just do this, you know. And so, you know, and it was like Lookout Mountain, which is a trucker song, or was actually originally an Adams House Cat song, and I wrote it that following summer. I wrote it in the summer of '90. I guarantee I wouldn't have written that song if I hadn't spent, you know, 9 months or so listening to Freedom. And of course, you know, listening to Freedom made me go back and start listening to other Neil Young records that I'd either listened to as a kid and hadn't heard since or had missed. You know, I'd kind of, you know, I can remember my dad playing Tonight's the Night when I was 10, but 10-year-old's not going to get Tonight's the Night. Right. You know,
that's the first Neil
album.
And I was
16 or 26-year-old might get Tonight's the Night, you know.
That same thing. Like when I first heard that, I was 16. I was like, I don't know. I don't get why people think this is great. And then, like, you know, 10 years later, I was like, oh shit, man,
probably
shit.
My favorite,
yeah. No,
let's get into it.
Well, Freedom to me, and I think I said this a little bit before you hopped on, Patterson. It sounds so. We were in the '80s for, I think, the past 35 years. It felt like we were on his 80s albums.
Right. Yeah. That's what it felt like being a Neil Young fan.
Yes. But so getting to Freedom and hearing, I just think Neil just thrives at the end / beginning of a new decade. He just fucking murders it. And
69, 79, 89.
Yeah.
Those three in particular were just, I mean, those are, you know, other than the trilogy, those are probably the three most important years of Neil Young's catalog.
Oh, yeah. But it finally, especially after going through Everybody's Rockin' and Trans and Landing on Water and This Note's for You, and I even like This Note's for You, but I feel like we finally are back at Neil not trying to fit into a specific style of music. And I get all the Geffen shit, but like you start with an acoustic version of Everybody's Rockin', and then you get there's another acoustic song, and then you get to Don't Cry, which fucking what did I say?
You said Everybody's rocking in the free world.
Oh shit,
continue.
But yeah, but it feels like he's not trying to like write an album. He's just like, I like this song and I like this song. It just feels like a Neil Young record again to me, and I think he said that.
Yeah, he did. He said that to Rolling Stone. He said he just wanted to make a Neil Young record, just me, where there was no persona, there was no image, and no distinctive character.
Right.
And we've been waiting through the 80s. I mean, or at least since, I guess you could say since Reactor.
Yeah.
You know, for him to start doing that again. And he also said something. He said, you destroy what you did before and you're free to carry on. And I think that, you know, he successfully did that. He tried very hard to alienate what he had, the crowd he had built and the legacy he had, the reputation he had. And I think he did that. And I think this is the product of that. And I think Freedom, he took some of the things that he experimented with, the horns and, you know, maybe some of the electronic stuff, just little bits here and there.
Yeah.
And he applied it to Freedom. So maybe the 80s, he took what he learned. It was like he took stock of what he did in the 80s and said, I'll use all these parts that work the best.
For sure. You know, Freedom would not have happened if he hadn't made all of those records, and including the ones that probably did, the ones that were even so fucked up he didn't put them out. You know, all of that entered into him being able to make Freedom. You know, and to give like a more contemporary comparison, I think the new Flaming Lips records like that. Like I love the new Flaming Lips record a lot. And I think the records they've made for the last about 11 years, a lot of which I really didn't enjoy personally as a person who is a big Flaming Lips fan for a long time. Some of those records, they just weren't for me. But now when I hear their new record, there's no way that record would have happened if they hadn't spent 11 years making those other records. It's
Right.
like it enabled them to do that. And that's a good lesson to remember if you're going to be an ongoing artist, is that, sometimes you have to be willing to make those land on water in order to have your ragged glories and freedom.
It's like it's like the fucking the Buddhist suffering, is the freedom. You know what I mean? It's Neil is the perfect example of a Buddhist teaching. You know what I mean? Yep. You really have to suffer through the fucking 80s to get some freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to start? You want to hop in song by song here, or you want to?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so, just for you guys, it's gonna sound warbly when I play it. Okay. So you don't have to comment on it, Russ. I'm looking at you in particular. I'm gonna overdub all this shit.
Yeah,
all
sure.
Right. Here we go.
Colors on the street, red, white, and blue. People shuffling their feet, people sleeping in their shoes. But there's a warning sign on the road ahead. There's a lot of people saying we'd be better off dead. Don't feel like Satan, but I am to them. So I try to forget it any way I can. Keep on rocking in the free world.
Yeah. Dude,
So
that's like the perfect example of what everything we were just saying, because the things we've brought up in the past few episodes when we were going through the 80s, he kind of mentions all those things, like with the people on the street thing and the shuffle in the feet.
That's the first thing I thought was the people on the street.
He talks about shuffling his feet again.
Right,
fucking people on the street again. But it's like actually fucking good. And then you have like the hook of all fucking hooks. It's so good. It's so good.
My favorite thing about this song is how ironically it's used constantly.
Yeah.
Like, not to go back to the same.
We can't not talk about the whole Trump thing.
The whole Trump thing. It's like everyone thinks this is some patriotic anthem, and it's like, no, it's not. It's not that.
Born in the USA.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike said that right when we started off. Mike brought up "Born in the USA."
Yeah, it's funny. I think a theme. Like sometimes Russ brings up with the album that there's a theme through the album, and something I picked up on Freedom is that there's a price for everything.
Right.
And so, this song came out of him and Pancho watching Iranians protest on TV, and Pancho going, let's not tour anywhere near the Middle East. Let's just keep rocking in the free world. And Neil was like, yeah. And so we've got what we call a perfect system, or a better system than others, than the Iranians or whatever, but there's a price for that. And he mentions that price in this song, and the electric version too. He kind of expands on it with another verse. But that's the theme I got from Freedom, is
Absolutely.
that there's a price for everything.
Way to take my thing, Shu.
I'm sorry. That's one of it hit me like just a few
No, that's great.
ago.
I love it. I love
years of listening to this, I'm like, oh yeah, there's like a price attached to everything.
Right.
And rocking in the free world, it's free, but there's a price.
Does anyone know where that lawsuit's at right now?
No.
Or is it just probably
the Trump lawsuit?
Yeah. Because I know he went forward with it, and it's going somewhere.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything else about that. Yeah.
I just think it's so funny. I don't know. Like it just, I don't know why it bothers me, because I know music and art is subjective, but the whole using this as a fucking political patriotic song it's just weird to me. It's like, it's so obvious from the get-go that it's not that.
But you know what, Luke? It's the story of like America and social media. Everybody's reading the headline, but they're not clicking on the article.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also the fact that most of the people who make those decisions are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, they're not.
and actually, I think Patterson in on the new OK, you have a song where you have a line where it says, I think it's something like "boys too stupid to actually be proud" or something like that, which is a great line.
A great line.
And that's sort of what I'm thinking about right now. It's like some people are just fucking, they don't care. It's a hook, and they hear free world and rocking, and that's all they need. You know what I mean?
Ray Davies talked about that, and Ray Davies, there was a great interview in the New York Times about a week ago with Ray Davies. It's the 50th anniversary of Lola, and and they were talking about how groundbreaking the subject matter of that song was, and how timely it is 50 years later right now with the whole trans stuff and everything with Lola. It's like, how did you get away with that? And it's like it had a catchy hook. No one listens to the words, the verses. It had a catchy hook. Everybody's going low, 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 low. They're not paying attention to the fact that it could be some homophobic redneck dude, and he's not paying attention to the fact that Lola's a dude dressed as a girl.
And they're all the same guys that are big fans of Queen. And,
had no idea.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think it's also interesting that he, much like Russ Never Sleeps, he opens up with this acoustic version and then ends with the seriously heavy.
Well, and he's been wanting to do that. He loves that. He loves doing that shit. And this is like one of the best examples of it, I think. But
is this the third or fourth time he did that on a record? I think it's the third.
I think it's only this.
Tonight's the night.
Tonight's the night.
Oh, tonight's the night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then
but I don't think that's technically right, because didn't he?
It wasn't acoustic and electric. They were similar, but one was definitely, there was some jams in it. Yeah.
But he bookended. Yeah, he likes doing that.
He likes doing the bookends.
That's like his way of making it like this is the complete work. Kind of starting, ending. He has the.
So I have a question. Shu, you might know this. Is this one of the first times people have heard this song in the live audience as well? Would this be like?
He did a tour after he made the El Dorado EP, which has a couple of songs on Freedom from that. Right. And it was full on electric.
Yeah, but it didn't have Rockin' in the Free World, right?
He said he wanted to get back to his acoustic side because he wanted to just feel the music, just him. And so, this was recorded at Jones Beach in New York before, obviously Freedom came out. So he did like a couple of acoustic tours to try out some tunes and get back in touch with his Neil Young acoustic side.
Right.
Wow.
Apparently before this came out.
And I love the crowd at the end of this too, when he's doing those guitar hits and everyone's singing along. It's so good. And you can just really hear him like fucking slamming on that guitar. Yeah. And the harmonica too in this.
The harmonica, yeah.
Can I ask you guys, I mean, what's that feeling like when people are singing along to something you wrote, like word for word?
There's fucking nothing like it, Mike. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's awesome. Fucking great.
It's people doing it and stuff. Like you're talking about Lola, I mean, I can't imagine what Ray Davies thinks of like 30,000 people singing that song.
Yeah.
That's just like mind blowing to me as a non-musician.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's pretty great.
And especially like the first time it happens, like when Luke and I started off playing in like a little coffee shop and stuff, and you just have like maybe tops 10 people. Right. At this point, they've heard the song a couple of times, and now they're like, they picked up on it and they sing it, and you're like, wow, I could get used to this.
Well, you make milestones in your head. So your first one is like, I would like people to recognize, like I would like someone from my town to like recognize it. Then your next one's like, I'd like people to sing along to a song that I wrote. And then the ultimate one for me is I would like Weird Al to parody one of my songs.
That's when you know you made it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Are you going to move on to Crime in the City?
Well, before we do that, I do want to mention there is a pretty decent cover on YouTube of this song. It's by this band called the Drive-By Truckers.
Really?
There's like 20,000 different videos of you guys covering this song. So
we've been known to.
Is this the only Neil song? Because there's a bunch of videos on YouTube of you guys covering this. Do you cover any other Neil, or is it just this one pretty much?
I feel like we've done, as one-offs through the years, playing with someone else or whatever, I'm sure we have. I know somewhere out there is us with a bunch of guys from Slobberbone doing Cortez the Killer.
Oh, fuck yeah.
and maybe me sitting in with Slobberbone doing Cinnamon Girl, and
Okay.
there's got to be some floating around, but as far as like on any kind of an ongoing basis, we don't play a lot of covers, but this song is such a, I don't know when we did it first, but I know that when we did that tour, we toured with the Hold Steady in 2008. We did this like cross country month-long tour co-heading with them, and then we would for the encore of whoever was headlining, because it went back and forth every other night, whoever's headlining, we would all come out together for at least a song or two, and Rockin' in the Free World kind of became a big part of that. And then at some point after the election of 2016, it just kind of started getting played again. I think we played it. Actually, we played Philly the night after the election. If I remember correctly, we ended with it that night because it just anything to make us feel better that night.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of come back and forth.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. If you haven't listened to it, youngsters, check out. Sorry, I'm going through my notes here.
No, we'll post the video. One of the
we
videos
should
on the longmayouyoungpodcast.com website.
Absolutely. All right. Crime in the City, 60-0, Part 1.
I love Crime in the City.
Is there a Part 2?
I don't know.
I don't think there is.
Oh.
Maybe when the Archive Part 3 comes out, it'll be out there. I don't know.
I'll wait out till after. We've talked ad nauseum about Part 2. It's so fucking good.
Well, the cop made the showdown. He was sure he was right. He had all of the lowdown from the bank heist last night. His best
So you hear that?
Yeah.
What does that remind you of?
I don't know what.
Computer age?
No.
Yes, it does.
I just love where he goes, killers.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta fade it. Coming on a minute here.
Russ, you hear computer age in that blew my mind right there. But I think
it's that same
Watchtower. Am I wrong?
No, you know what I
hear
little
too?
Bit. I hear like
does that sound like All Along the Watchtower.
I also hear like a Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing sort of thing too.
Yes, Sultan.
It's got that vibe.
Definitely Dire Straits for sure.
There's a couple songs on this record that have like a Dire Straits sort of feel to me.
I also one thing that made me realize Neil's back is the fact that this song is fucking 9.5 minutes or whatever the fuck it is. And he's like, I love that. I love that last trip to Tulsa. I'm keeping in everything that I wrote. I love that shit. Right. And I don't know. I like the song a lot.
I love that song. I love it. And the only thing I might love more is the live version on Weld, which is
oh yeah.
I haven't heard that yet.
And where he just plays the living fuck out of it, and it's turned up to 12, and I love that. It's a very top favorite. It's probably top 20 favorite Neil songs, which top 20 Neil song is
because there's a lot that could go into that.
Yeah, there is.
It's kind of a continuation of Life in the City almost from This Note's for You, which is the song you hated, Luke. But
did I hate it?
I said hate it. You cut it. Every
was that my cut song?
We would cut.
Yeah, it was
to make the album.
Me and
better.
she were like, "Why would you do that?"
I don't think that was my cut song.
But it's kind of reminds me of kind of I don't want to call it a laundry list, but it's just like a list of issues, that he's covering. In this case, it's like, the cops feel like it's better to, if you can't beat them, join them. We're probably safer and we'll get paid more if we work with the drug dealers, or something like that. And then that verse about the producer
verse, yeah.
That is like, to me, it's like he's saying that we don't value art in the U.S. We don't value artists.
Which is more true than ever now.
Right. And he's like, he's saying that, like, you know, we have a song, but we don't have a singer. We don't have any word, you know, basically we have a song, but we don't have a song. Go find a songwriter, but make sure he's hungry.
Yeah.
Make sure he's
which is so good. It's so good.
And he's at his most vulnerable. So we can just rob his ass and take his fucking song. You know, it's just, we devalue the artist right there. You know, that's what I got out of that verse. Anyway,
I can tie that to Ambulance Blues. And I think there's definitely a link between Ambulance Blues, which is my second favorite Neil Young.
I was going to say that's up there. That's in my top 5 probably. Because
it's my number 2. And I actually just did a thing about songwriting, about my favorite songs on a different podcast about a week ago. And I had to make a list of 9 songs. And the Neil Young song I put on that list was Ambulance Blues. And they're like, well, what's your favorite? And it's like, well, Cortez is my favorite. I love Cortez. Cortez speaks to me on a really personal level beyond just about anything ever by anybody. But as far as if I was going to talk about the songwriting on a podcast, Ambulance Blues is my number 2 song, and it seems like a better song to discuss. But
right, yeah.
I think there's so much. I love it when he rambles. I love the way he rambles. I love the fact that Pocahontas somehow brought up Marlon Brando. I mean, I love that. You know, it's like that his ramble is, to me, what makes him my very favorite is the ramble.
Yeah. I don't know if have we done our number 1? And I know it changes fucking all the time, but
no,
have we talked about our number 1?
Like the end, man. We gotta wait for.
Well, my number 1 right now is Powderfinger, and it's been that for a couple of years now.
I love Powderfinger.
It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
My number 1 is People on the Street from Landing on Water. If I wanted to drive into a telephone pole, that would be a song that
You're a fucking idiot.
To make sure my head went through the windshield.
I can't wait. I can't wait for 5 years from now, Mike, when you actually really do love that album. Because you've talked about that album more than any other album that we've covered.
Yeah,
we're on episode 30 right now.
Yeah, that's when I know I have dementia. Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, my thing for me, it's just I'll always love "Don't Let It Bring You Down."
Don't Let It Bring You Down.
It's one of my. But anyway, it's funny you mentioned All Along the Watchtower too, Shu, because I also wrote that it's got a little bit of like the way he's sort of storytelling. It reminds me a little bit of Hurricane, the Bob Dylan tune.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
It's got sort of that, the way he tells the story has got that sort of vibe to it. I also love the percussion in this. And then and then you mentioned how he sort of built off of This Note's for You, and like this song, I think he really incorporates the sax really well.
Right. And the horns. Blue notes are on this one.
Well, because it's sparse. It feels like he went through the 80s and he took tiny little pieces of what he liked. And the sax in this is fucking great. It's perfectly placed. It's not overdone. It doesn't feel like the fucking Tonight Show band. It's just fucking right. It's just right there. I don't know.
So and that's also Ben Keith, right? Is playing, because he must have been in that.
I don't know if he's playing horns on this track.
I don't think he is.
I don't know if that's him doing the sax solo either. I know he brought the blue notes back.
I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, Ben Keith played sax on Everybody's Rockin', and then he made Ben Keith play horns in the Blue Notes, and he also made his guitar tech, Larry Craig, play the sax, who knew how to play the sax a little bit, and he made him play with the Blue Notes, because we call that being nilsed.
Yep.
Yeah.
On after the gold rush, Nils Lofgren went across the country to get, because Neil said, come by and I'll get you a record deal and stuff. And he said, hey, listen, play on After the Gold Rush. And Nils thought he was going to play guitar. And he said, no, I want you to play piano. And Nils was like, well, I'm not too familiar. You know, I mean, I can't. Yeah. Well, we talked to Nils.
Well, we interviewed Nils, and he
at all. I mean, he knew how to play the piano, but he wasn't prepared to play piano on a Neil Young album.
Right.
And then he made one of the most iconic fucking piano parts, because
ever. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
Nils, when Neil, like
in Southern Man, like Nils is responsible for that change, which is fucking awesome.
Well, Neil's right to do that. He's right to do that. And I tell you, and Dylan might have been an influence there too, because Dylan, I mean, Al Cooper
sure.
wasn't a keyboard player until
yeah.
until Like a Rolling Stone, you know.
Oh shit,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
He was there hoping to score a gig playing guitar because he was friends with a producer, and then and then he saw was it Bloomfield who whoever it was setting up. Like no, it's who was it? Guitar player on Like a Rolling Stone. He saw him setting up, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I won't be playing guitar today." And then he's watching them kind of work up the song, and he sat down at the at the organ.
Board, sure. That's why it has that kind of little behind kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it works so well with it. Yeah, it works out like perfect, which is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, you were right. It was Michael Bloomfield. You're right.
Bloomfield.
Yeah, he's played guitar. Yeah.
I thought I had it right, and the second I said it, was like, oh wait,
you doubted yourself.
It's the other one. It's the harmonica player that I always get their names mixed up, and I'm fucking up. So
Hey Patterson, you got it right. How does it feel?
That's Luke right there, king of the dad jokes.
Well, I got 5 kids. What do you want me to do?
Did you ever run into? Did you ever meet or know Ben Keith at all, Patterson?
Don't think so.
Yeah, because he was a session guy.
Like hero. God,
He's
crazy. He played on fucking Patty.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Patsy Cline's crazy for Christ's sake.
This podcast
Did he really?
has sparked my like deep fucking love. You can ask these guys.
Russ has got a serious heart on for Ben Keith
after doing this podcast, and I didn't really know about him before we started doing this podcast. And now I'm fucking obsessed with him, dude. He's
the shit.
He's amazing.
You know who'll never get over it? It's Neil. I mean,
I know.
I know for years he said there would never be another pedal steel on a Neil Young record, and I hopefully those Promise for the Real Boys will maybe make him rethink that or something, because those guys are amazing with it.
Those guys are so good.
They're so good.
They were the band, the show I
was going to ask you. Yeah, there's too much to cover, but I was going to ask you about that because me and Luke saw him with them, and it was like.
That was my first time seeing Neil was with Promise of the Real.
Oh my God!
Holy shit!
So far,
and Lucas is just
he's
just incredible. But yeah, if we were ever to interview Neil, I would 100% ask him about Ben Keith for sure.
What the fuck? If we ever interview Neil, what the hell? Like, what are we gonna even talk to him about at this point?
You know what I'm gonna talk to him about?
Landing on water.
That vocal part in the middle of people on the street.
No, you're not gonna. You're definitely not gonna bring that up.
In there.
All right, let's move on here.
Wait, hold on. I want to do a quick Russ thing because I haven't done one of these.
Want me to go to a specific part of the song?
Yeah, a specific part where there's a weird noise, and I also wanted to point out the sax. So go to 302, and then around 306, listen, because there's like a weird noise or something. It's like
I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, ready? Hold on. Fuck, I forgot to unmute it. Hold on. Fuck you. Fuck off. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck off. Here we go. Jesus, I heard it.
Did you hear it?
I heard it, yeah.
Like, it's like a fucking frog popped into the studio.
It's like a ring.
Listen to that sax.
It was Giuliani came by and farted.
It was a Giuliani fart. That's awesome. It was also there's also a really cool change in the middle of the song too, which is awesome. But let's move on to
I can go to it if you want, Russ. We're only on Freedom once, and I'm happy to linger on this album.
I just like the change. It's people can listen at home. It's at like 4:38 ish. There's like a cool change, but.
All right, people listen at home. People on the street, listen at home.
People, all right, don't cry. Let's do it.
All right, this is I'll spoil it. This is my number one on the album right here.
Wow.
Shoo, is that synth?
No.
It might be. I don't know.
You talking about the pipe hit? It's not synth.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
This song must have some kind of synth or keyboard with that.
This song fucking rips.
No,
and we're not even going to get to the point where, well, no, we'll cut to it.
Yeah, we'll cut to it.
Russ, I love this too right here. Yeah.
And then it goes. Yeah.
reminds me a little bit of some of the Roger Waters singing on the wall.
Yeah.
When he's just really losing it towards the end of like around side 4 of the wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh god,
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Because before I know, I forget what song it was. They ripped the studio door off, and that was for
No, that was
on Russ Never Sleeps.
Yes, yeah.
So
where fucking Ralph was like smashing the door.
Yeah, he's hitting the door. A studio.
Yeah.
Hammer. Yeah, to emphasize the beat there, but this is.
But I mean, even some of these big sounds in here, I'm like, they must be emphasized with some sort of like synth or keyboard or something.
Right.
I don't think they are, and I don't even think so. This is where
Well, how's he hitting? I mean, it's not just drums and guitar that's hitting that fucking.
You talking about that like synthesize-y noise at the end? I think that's the same shit he does, like in Reactor and even in fucking Letters from Nam. What's the fucking actual song?
Long Walk Home.
Long Walk Home. It's the same shit. I think he's doing it on his guitar, but I hated it in Long Walk Home. I love it.
Yeah, this album's another like we've been saying, a perfect.
This is where you
do that, Patterson. He had all that suffering through the 80s. Now we have this album where it's all a culmination of all that he's sort of, I guess, learned going through that, and now he's incorporated all of those elements in this album, and you really start like we said with the sax, and now I think whatever that sound is that's going on in this song, whatever those sounds are,
right?
It's really like fucking. This works. You know,
I can try to.
Okay,
if you give me a second, I can try to find where it is. Do you know like where?
I didn't write it down, but it comes in.
The guitar part.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
Well, no. It's just like it's at the end, especially.
Give me a second here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Right here. Ready?
And this is the. Chad.
Damn it.
That is my favorite Neil Young sound.
Yeah.
That sound. Like everybody knows this is Nowhere. There were some great sounds on there, but this is where he achieved full Neil Young. That sound like when he solos, he could carve canyons out with the sound of his guitar.
Yeah. Oh God,
so like it's just bashing your head in, and it's so distorted and over the top, and yet he still is able to control it.
Yeah, and I want to shout out fucking Chad Cromwell on the drums. And as much as I love Ralph Molina, the fucking solo and the way that Chad is playing off and what you're saying here with Neil's guitar playing, I think Chad does a fucking kick-ass job drumming in this.
I agree.
Is he the guy from the Blue Notes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cromwell and Rick Rose's, who were originally Joe Walsh's rhythm section, I guess.
And he's credited as Rick the bass player.
Right.
As all bass players, are.
But yeah, that guitar sound, and he's been refining that all these. I mean, you talk about Ragged Glory and Weld, especially on Weld. And if you listen to that Arc album he put out, which was all the feedback experiments from that tour, I just love that. I love how it just starts breaking up and crumbling. It's
awesome.
Don't
cry about it though.
Okay, I won't cry.
So after going through all the 80s albums that we did, and some highs, some lows, whatever, this song, obviously Rockin' the Free World, everyone knows, and then Crime in the City, great song, but this one, to me, like I literally had to pull over the first time I re-listened to it, because it's so perfectly Neil, and it's so perfectly where he doesn't just the lyrics are very simple, but they're very deep. But then he tells you shit in the guitar breaks. He tells you shit like in between the lyrics. And I was like, oh my God, this is why we're doing this podcast. I was because it felt like we were fucking trudging through the 80s. And again, I like some of those albums. I didn't like some of them. Fucking Neil, man. But here we go. Like, Don't Cry. I don't even know what to say. Sorry.
Well, this was actually based on a story told to him by Nico Bolas, who was going to get married to this woman, and at the last minute, like, she dumped him.
Oh, really?
Apparently he had a nervous breakdown about it. Yeah. And he was telling Neil about it. They were driving around his ranch, and he was telling Neil about it. And Neil said that, well, he said, I had a nervous breakdown about it. And Neil went, well, that's great, because that means you're alive and you can still feel something. He was trying to spin it. And Nico Bola said he had a really hard time like working on the song and mixing it, because it kept bringing up those emotions and stuff.
So was that story the influence for Wedding Singer?
Right.
Stupid. Fucking Neil, man.
Yeah.
Let's move on, because I actually really love this next tune.
Okay. Hold on.
This is one of my favorites off the record. But I mean, I'm a sucker for this vibe. There's like two things playing, Luke. Oh, there it is.
No, hold on. What is
That's
happening?
not it.
Yeah, something's going on.
Hold on. Let me try this again. Sorry.
There it is.
Go.
Though the river flows gently to the sea, he was on the shore, rooted like a tree. She was here and there, riding on the waves. Through it all, she heard his call and gave it all she gave. And
So that's like the return of Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, I love it. It's
To
fucking,
work
I think it's so beautiful. It
It
works.
reminds me of the guitar playing in Thrasher a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's beautiful, interwoven, into each other.
Yeah, I like this.
I
tune a
think
lot.
it's gorgeous. I love them singing together, and I just think it's a really pretty, beautiful song, and I love the lyrics. I love everything about it.
I
think it's
agree.
Yeah. Again, and it kind of like says there's a price for everything.
Yeah.
And I found, whatever, I found my soulmate, or I found a real love, and it's bringing me freedom, but it's maybe at a price of someone else. You
Yeah.
know?
I just love that, like, taught him how to dance. I don't know. Something about that was fucking so,
Oh yeah.
so beautiful. But anybody else have anything on
Not
this
much else
song?
on this
Anything
song. I
else?
love this song, but nothing.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. Kind of love it.
El Dorado, then.
All right,
Yeah,
there we
let's
go.
move on to El Dorado.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
This is the part of the podcast where I hate that I have to fade the songs out because I just want to listen to them.
Yeah.
in the crystal ball, the gypsy sees a filler.
Listen to that bass, too.
I know the bass, yeah.
Bass is awesome.
Riders on the hill, the fire.
Just the accents he's doing.
All right, I gotta fade it.
And then when it does that again in the next verse, when it does that sound again.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It comes back. Yeah.
Pound you in the head.
Ah, yeah.
Patterson, let me ask you: have you ever recorded a song with, what do they call, castanets?
No.
No,
Me too.
you
Me
town
too.
meeting guys. You guys ever do that?
No,
No.
we never used that. I don't think.
Fucking Neil, man.
Fucking Neil, man.
Fucking Neil, man. That's our saying on this podcast, Patterson. Hashtag FNM. Fucking
Fucking Neil, man. Because you can say it for Landing on Water and you can say it for After the Gold Rush, and it means two different things, but it's still the fucking same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what do you guys think of this theory I have about the song? Is that it's kind of the continuation of like Cortez the Killer,
Yeah, I wrote the same
and
thing.
Inca Queen,
Yeah,
and
Inca
kind of
Queen,
bringing it up to date.
or Like an Inca.
Yeah, right. Like an Inca. And then you're kind of bringing it up to date with like Mexico and like the influence of others. And,
Right.
it starts with the classic imagery, the riders on the hill and the bell,
Yeah.
and and then it goes on to what I consider to be some kind of drug deal, or maybe a purchase of influence or something like that. And it just that's kind of like with Cortez and Inca Queen and Like an Inca and stuff like that. These outside influences mixed with this mythology.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, for sure. The lyrics are fucking awesome. I just love the way Neil. It almost kind of goes back to what you were saying, Patterson, of just like some of the rambling. He just like.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck, and it's so good.
Well, there's like 6 different songs on just this album where every verse tells a different story. It feels like he has just been holding on to these stories for so long. Like even this song, there's like 4 different stories in this song. And then when he gets to the bullfighter, it's like, okay, like where is he going with this? I love when you can't. I think my favorite thing about Neil is you can't pin him down on when he's at his best.
Yeah.
Like this song, what's the one fucking we'll get there, but like Someday, where he's telling like 6 different stories, like each verse tells a different story. But it's just like you can't really pin him down. The note I wrote about the song was this song feels like Neil's been trying to write this song for 13 years and he finally did it and he nailed it. It just feels like he fucking has been trying to write this kind of a song and then he finally did it and he fucking nailed it. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say here.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, let's move on to the next one because this is a great Ben Keith song right here, baby.
Does anyone have anything else about El Dorado? Because that was the name of the EP put out before this.
Well, we talked about that though.
That's true.
Yeah. It's kind of like I think the bullfighter thing is that the people caught up in the middle between whoever's snapping the briefcase and whoever's making the deal, they'll come through like they have in the past.
Yeah.
But with the Spanish and the Germans and, the Mexican-American War and stuff like that, they've always kind of kept going. That's kind of what I got from that.
Yeah. All right. This one's called The Ways of Ben Keith. I'm sorry, The Ways of Love. Hold on.
Same thing. Love and Ben Keith. Again, great drumming.
You are my special one.
Yeah.
Come on.
Russ,
Ben Keith is my special one.
The first time I listened to this, I predicted this was going to be in your top 3, Russ, man. Is it?
I don't know if it is. I don't think it is. It's just it's great though.
This part has a Buffalo Springfield
Yes.
feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have Linda yet?
Yeah. Linda, yeah.
Linda comes in.
I'll bring her back.
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Oh, Linda.
Yeah, but that pedal steel, this is an exceptional Ben Keith performance.
Oh,
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. It's like the stuff on Harvest. It kind of fills the spaces. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've all had our hearts broken, but can you imagine having your heart broken by Linda Ronstadt?
No. Oh, God, no.
Seriously.
And if you live through it, at least you can say, well, it was Linda Ronstadt. I mean, it was,
right.
it was Linda Ronstadt.
I love lyrically, though, Neil writes a lot of songs similar to this, but I feel like this one is kind of, he's contemplating the consequences on the other side of some kind of an affair or some kind of a situation.
Right.
Do you know what I'm
There's
saying?
another who is crying.
Yeah.
Whole part in the lyric. Yeah. Again, there's a price.
Yeah. The price.
I found the love of my life, but then there's there's a price for it. You're destroying someone else's love or dreams, or relationship.
Mike,
even.
you're a fucking philosophical son of a bitch. You really.
I blame my English teacher. Sorry. But this is a song he actually wrote in the 70s. And it has that Comes a Time vibe
Yes,
Yeah.
very comes to
I
time.
love that about this record is that you can actually tell that there are songs from all these different periods that are in it. And I think that's part of what gives this record a strength. And that's one of the things about Neil's trajectory as an artist that I've that I love most and have been probably most influenced by is the fact that he's done that he's always kind of done that. And I love that about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always like taken stuff from the past or reworked it, and most of his albums have always been kind of a patchwork.
Yeah.
Worked and what flowed through there. Yeah.
Well, even one of my favorite things to find out about Life is I know we already talked about it on this episode, but fucking Long Walk Home, that he wrote that 10 or even 20 years before it came out as a completely different song.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like that he.
And then now we have the version on Archives too, and it's like, holy shit, this song just opened up to in a whole nother fucking beautiful way. You know, he just never stops evolving. He never stops evolving. He's
fucking Neil, man.
Fucking Neil, man.
Fucking Neil, man.
That's right.
Yeah, we got a Patterson Hood fucking Neil, man.
All right, I'm moving on to Someday because we're running.
I think I'm calling that this is the one Shu was going to have an issue with.
Yeah, just let this play a little bit. I'll give you my take on this. Tonight, a very special lifetime. They never thought an STD could bring people together. It's Chlamydia for Christmas.
Chlamydia for Christmas.
With Harry Hamlin.
Oh my God! Can I write that song?
Yes, please do that.
Can I? All right, I'm fading this out early here.
I'm sorry. That's what that sounds like.
No, God, Mike, that's
80s production and the keyboards. It was like a leftover from Landing on Water or Life or something. It was just,
you heard it here first, everyone. Patterson Hood is going to write a song called Chlamydia for Christmas. and Luke and I are going to do the backup vocals. And
here we go. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing a Christmas show in a week and a half, and my wife is really on me to write a Christmas song for it, and I've been very resistant.
Oh my God! Want you to do.
Please write.
I mean, the name of the show is Christ It's Christmas, and I'm just not Christmassy. You know, it's like I get Christmas spirit around Christmas Eve, and it's like, okay, it's Christmas. I'm good for 2 days of Christmas.
Right.
All in. Yeah. But this talking about Christmas a month out just pisses me off, and so she stays on me. She wants me to write a song for my Christmas show I'm doing, and I think it should happen now.
I think we found it. I think we found the title.
You have your background vocals singers right here too.
Yeah. Can y'all come do it?
Dude, hell yeah!
Absolutely.
I'm gonna do it in my living room. So
if you send us your rough take for Chlamydia for Christmas, we will immediately the day of we will send you our background vocals.
I'll add a drum track too. It would probably be djembe. I feel like it'd be a djembe song.
I can only imagine the artwork Wes Freed would come up with for that song.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So, okay, can we talk about the fact that the first person he mentions is fucking Rommel?
Yeah, that scared me at first.
It's a little odd. It's an odd choice.
No. Yeah, I don't think. Well, first of all, Rommel wasn't a Nazi, and he was part of that group that tried to overthrow Hitler and end the war.
But it's still an odd choice.
It is. I think we're talking about price.
Yes. Like, okay.
Price of doing what you believe in. You know, and in Rommel's case, it killed him. You know, but then he talks about the preacher who has sinned. You know, you got to pay if you want to be influential like a preacher. You know.
It's the most ridiculous part of the song, by the way.
Oh, okay. And then this, the Alaska pipeline part, that's the most ridiculous part of the song. Like all of a sudden we're building the pipeline and it's like Allentown by Billy Joel, and it's like, the whole like smog turning into stars and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listen, guys, I want to hate this song, Shu. I do, but I just don't. I don't hate it.
Really, Russ?
Yeah.
You like the whole praise the Lord. Praise his name.
I don't hate this song. I wish I feel like I should, but I don't.
Can you go to two?
Oh no, I don't hate the song. I love the song.
Yeah, I think they're just saying
I
because
love it.
the production and stuff, and it's sort of the cheesiness. But I
love it.
I
love
like the
everything about
sentiment. I do too, man. I'm with you. I knew these guys were gonna hate it, and I was gonna have to admit to them that I didn't, and I was.
I'll tell you
afraid.
this: this is not my cut song. This is was almost my cut song.
Can you go to 258?
Yeah.
Well, 205 is the working.
No. 258. I want to point something out here.
All right, hold on.
It's not another Hallmark special.
All right, ready? Here we go.
Young is in a Bruce Springsteen tribute band.
It's fine with me.
Yeah, I can kind of hear that.
You're tough. You had me at chlamydia for Christmas, man. I'm all in on this song.
Listen, we call our listeners youngsters, which I know is super weird, but it's just something.
They love it.
Something silly, and they love it. But so what I'm saying, I'm telling our youngsters right now, if you want this to happen, you gotta at Patterson Hood, and you gotta use the hashtag chlamydia for Christmas.
No, what are you doing, Russ? The fuck was that?
Patterson's turning off all of his social media right now. He's like, I don't want these freaks fucking messaging me chlamydia for Christmas.
Oh my god. So Patterson and Russ, you guys you're like all in on this song?
Yeah, I like
I'm all in.
What do you like about it? I mean, I don't hate it. Okay.
I love everything about it. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a top shelf all-time favorite Neil Young song, but in the context of where it sits on this record, I think it's perfect. There's nothing about this record I would change. It was my record of the year in '89, tied with New York, and all these years later, my top 10 list would be exactly this. At least the top position would be the same all these years later. I think both those records have held up beautifully as both a snapshot of that moment in time as well as.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost him. Hold on. He's coming back. It's chlamydia for Christmas.
His computer got chlamydia. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Froze up for a second, Patterson.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. Chlamydia.
That's that what they say?
Hey, we all have to fly someday.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I agree 100%, Patterson. And I think like you said, the placement of it is another part of it that does it for me. I think go from this and then going into On Broadway, I don't know. I just think the way that this whole album flows is just And this song, like I wrote because I knew you guys were going to have an issue with this, and I was like, I'm going to have to admit that I don't hate it. It's not top 3 on the album, but I like it a lot.
I don't have an issue with it, and I agree. I do like the placement of it, but to me, it's definitely my second least favorite song on the album. But let's keep moving because we're running out of time here, so we got to get. All right, let's hop onto Neil's cover here. This is On Broadway.
That sound.
Yeah.
When you're walking down the street and you ain't had nothing to eat, the glitter rubs right on.
Yeah, that's
it's so,
I love
it's
when
so
that kicks
good.
in, man.
You got to go to the end though, Luke. Like
14
though. I think it's.
All right. I knew you were gonna say this, Russ, man.
Yeah.
You got to hear it.
Here we go. Hold
This
on.
spot's on the record.
Yes, dude.
God damn it.
That's why he's my favorite.
Fucking
Yeah,
Neil
man.
Young rules.
That's why we're doing this fucking podcast.
Right.
Give me some of that crack.
Give me that crack.
Apparently, he witnessed a drug deal because they recorded this in Times Square and at the Hit Factory, and apparently he did witness a drug deal. That kind of what inspired that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, happening outside where they were in the studio. But then again, it's also like, this is again a paying the price song.
Yeah.
I guess
No,
your pursuit of fame, right? And so it's kind of like Rhinestone Cowboy. This you're gonna have to do some things you maybe don't want to do.
Yeah.
I just realized, and I've never consciously realized it, but I guarantee it's the truth. When I was writing my part of Southern Rock Opera on the end of Road Cases, where it says to pay off that cocaine dealer and to pay off that crack dealer, I guarantee I unconsciously ripped that off from that line and that part of that Neil Young song.
Yeah.
And I never consciously realized it until just a moment ago when we were listening to it. And it's
wow.
oh, yeah, I ripped that off.
That's so funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Road Case is a great fucking song, by the
Oh
way.
yeah.
I think
What
that was the third thing I wrote for that record. I think
wow.
it wrote it super early, like super early.
It's great, man.
What the fuck was I gonna say? No, go ahead, Russ, man.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say this fucking the end of this. I just his guitar, man. He's just this album.
Oh
I don't
God,
know,
yeah.
It's just so fucking.
Well, even the way it builds. This is this
Yeah.
point my favorite cover that Neil does. And what is this? His 17th studio album. I don't
Yeah.
even know how many releases this is for him, but this is my favorite cover by far. It might be my favorite cover he does ever. And
Right.
it builds so well, and his guitar is so fucking harsh and
the
sound and the riff.
God,
the drums, the feel, the aesthetic, the sound of this song. Even through the crappy Zoom thing, I can still tell it's like yes.
Warbly, I think is the word you were looking for.
I think artistically, there's probably an argument that gets made a lot about Neil Young being impatient, because there's a very impatient side to his art through the years. But the duality is there's a patience about Neil Young too.
Yeah.
It is every bit the yin yang of that.
Yep.
All through the 80s when Geffen's suing him and everyone's pissed off and they're bitching about Landing on Water and they're bitching about rockabilly and they're bitching about country and all that. In the back of his mind, he knows that at any point when he fucking feels like it, he can make Freedom.
Yeah.
And he can do exactly that thing that everyone's so missing, and he's just going to make them wait until he fucking fits. Like, no, this year we're going to do the Blue Notes.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're not on Geffen anymore. Don't do that. But then he does, man. You're right. And then it makes wait even longer because the majority of those fans are waiting for another Harvest, and he doesn't even give that to them until Harvest Moon, which is amazing because
it's a beautiful record.
Yeah, it's one of I mean, and again, I think a lot of that goes to Ben Keith because he produced that. But I mean,
and Spooner is a very important piece of that puzzle too.
Yes,
to me, the big difference between First Harvest and Second Harvest, besides the years, is the Spooner aspect. And as someone that spent a pretty intimate amount of time with Spooner in my life, there's
cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you did work with Booker T as well.
Oh yeah. I'm
That's
a
incredible.
lucky man.
Yeah,
and,
Spooner was in the Truckers.
Spooner was Spooner's and
cool.
we spent a year together, and oh God, I love Spooner. But there's an aspect of his personality that is so loud throughout Harvest Moon, and that's like the secret spice in that sauce is the Spooner spice.
Sounds like you'll have to come back for the Harvest Moon episode, is what I'm hearing right now.
or get Spooner to do it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Fucking sick.
That's really awesome, and I totally agree that he of course is probably like, yeah, just wait, you fucks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know, because he doesn't. It's just a weird thing. But then again, you think about. Well, to go back to On the Beach, I said to the guys when we were covering that album, the line where Neil says, "I need a crowd of people, but I can't face them day to day."
Yeah.
I think that is another thing that really sums him up. And I know Luke had mentioned what line was that, Luke? Where you were saying it
doesn't mean that much.
Doesn't mean that much to me to mean that much to you. You know, it's like it's that duality thing, man. That yin yang where he needs a crowd of people, but he can't face them day to day. But it doesn't mean that much to him to mean that much to you. But he's still, he has to do it. You know,
fucking Neil,
to fucking do it the same way that we have to do it. You know what I mean? And he's been that for all of us. And this album to me, I totally agree, Patterson. And it goes to show that he doesn't give a fuck. But he also gives so much of a fuck that he doesn't give a fuck that here's a fuck that he gives. You know what I mean? It's like just this never-ending Neil loop that is always just fucking unraveling, to go back to you there. So I don't know. Let's move on. But.
All right, Neil, youngsters, frequent listeners of this podcast know we're at the point where we have 4 songs left and we have like 5 minutes left of the show.
We can make it a 2-parter.
We'll figure it out. But here's
the
Wrecking Ball.
My life's an open book. You read it on the radio. We got nowhere to hide. We got nowhere to go. But if you still decide that you want to take a ride,
I can already tell our favorite part of watching this back is going to be the part where we spend a minute listening and it's all of us just kind of doing
just
this.
all in our heads.
I like Neil in a Rolling Stone interview said this is the Wrecking Ball is a place where you can go to dance with someone other than your wife and it wrecks your life.
Oh geez. I didn't read that.
And I think that's kind of what the song is about, where again there's that price. So he's successful in what he does, but he gives up a certain part of his life for it. Like everybody's watching, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. Kind of thing like that. He kind of mentioned that on Coupe de Ville and on This Note's for You, where I got a right to live my life, you know, but I got this thing I got to do and I got to be careful about what I do. And, you know, the whole reading, you know, my life is on the radio. It's all in my songs basically. But, you know, that's what I got from this one.
No, I agree. I same thing. We have this thing on this podcast, Patterson, where we talk about how Neil is definitely a time traveling vampire.
He is, for sure.
And that we mean that in the most loving way, of course. But he definitely has this time travel quality where he's always seems to be either ahead of things or influencing times, and he's just. And this song to me, I was like, the title of it, because how many fucking songs have been called Wrecking Ball? And I was like, was Neil one of the first ones?
Well, but Neil wrote the Miley version, I think.
I thought of Gillian Welch. I thought of Miley. I thought of Ryan Adams. There's like so
Ryan
many.
Adams. Jeez, yeah, I forgot about
I think
that.
But I was like, fucking Neil beat them all to it or something.
Well, yeah, Bruce.
Which one is Emmy Lou's? Because hers is it
That
Neil?
was this one.
That's this one.
Yeah.
I love that too.
Yeah.
I've got a trivia question for you leading into the infamous Saturday Night Live performance where he did "Rockin' in the Free World." What was the other song he played that night?
Was it this one?
A good question.
If I remember correctly, he did an abbreviated version of "The Needle and the Damage Done."
Really?
Followed by "No More."
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's as good as "Rockin' in the Free World." I mean,
Yeah.
it's fucking good, man.
I remember that.
I gotta watch
It
that.
was hair-raising good. I mean, the bands on TV just were never as good as that, as he was that night. That was like, that's still to me the gold standard of how to do TV is what he did that night on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
I'll have to go watch the whole thing. I had only seen the Rockin' in the Free World.
Yeah, no more is
watch that.
fucking great. And I'm 99, it's been 30 years now since I've seen it, but I'm 99% sure that he did an abbreviated Needle and the Damage Done and then broke into it.
Yeah, I remember that because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's playing this. Yeah. But then the whole band kicked in.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm kicking right. I'm going to use that as a segue, kick right into No More.
Okay.
Here.
All right.
Listen to the bass in this song.
The bass is great.
Also, Ben Keith is on keyboards in this song, everybody.
Russ, you got to relax on the Ben Keith stuff, man.
No, I never will.
You're right on that. Yeah.
Living on the edge of night, you know the sun won't go down slow.
Yeah. I got to fade a little bit here. But does
this song has a cool change too with the at the No Mores, and then the jam at the end is awesome too.
But does his vocals remind anyone else of Blind Melon a little bit on this one, or am I on an island?
Oh no,
here?
I think Shannon Hoon definitely had a Neil Young influence in his singing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, among many others. But
This song in particular, and ironically that it's all about fucking drugs and drug addiction. Like it I don't know, like immediately when he came in, I thought of Shannon Hoon and I thought of Blind Melon. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've been listening to them a bunch lately, but I don't know. It's
kind of appropriate, for this song, especially, I guess, because of what happened to Shannon Hoon. And,
right.
And Neil dealt with his own demons, but, he knew, like Danny Whitten, and Bruce Berry, and then like Stephen Stills and David Crosby, and how their art suffered because of their addictions.
Right.
And he was especially upset about Stephen Stills because, like I said earlier, they just made that American Dream album and it was horrible. And Stephen Stills just came and didn't have any ideas, and he was totally burned out and still doing cocaine. And Neil was really pissed about that. And, but yeah, this is definitely a cautionary tale. And like, who would know better, than the guy who's suffered through it himself, but also lost friends, good friends.
You can make a valid argument for a trilogy of this album, Ragged Glory, and Sleeps with Angels, almost being kind of a trilogy in its own right too.
Yeah.
Because they kind of bookend, and I love Sleeps with Angels. I think that's a an often overlooked fantastic record. It conjures a mood and boy, it's soundtracked where I was that moment when it came out. That's for sure.
On the archives too, the video, the movie thing they had is great too.
Oh yeah, Patterson. I don't know if you have or subscribe to Neil Young Archives, but when you do,
I need to. That's what I want for Christmas.
It has a
we can do that for you. We'll get one.
You heard it here first, folks.
They have a half-hour documentary of somewhat of the making of Sleeps with Angels, and you get to see him working with David Briggs, which I think is cool because I'm a huge David Briggs fan. But how they put stuff together in the studio. But yeah, I agree on that. It evokes. There's a certain mood, and that was, it's kind of the same to this song. Kind of the whole thing. Most of it was like a cautionary tale. I think to what was going on at the time, because you had Kurt Cobain who killed himself. Heroin was starting to just, like it always does, riddle itself into the current music scene and stuff like that. And he'd seen that already, tenfold.
Yeah. I think this line I want to read real quick because I think it ties in exactly what you're saying here, Shu. Seemed like the easy thing to let it go for one more day, like singing the same old song and twisting the words in a different way. Where did the magic go? I searched high and low. I can't find it no more. I can't get it back. I can't find it. And I think that is just like
whole, I'm gonna kick tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
And just I just love the imagery too of a musician or whoever, singing that same fucking song, but like just changing the word here or there, twisting the words a little bit. But you still, no matter how much you twist it, if you're not there, you're not there. And the magic's not there, no matter what you try to do, or, and I just love the way that he takes that line and takes that sentiment and takes that feeling and then just fucking puts it in this beautiful little bow, and it's just like, I don't know.
Like,
and he gives it to us.
These are beautiful, but it just gets darker and darker as it spirals downward through the song, and but yeah, I think it's a beautiful tune, and this surf guitar influence totally comes out in this song.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You go to 322, Luke, some awesome surf guitar. I love that, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like he's playing on the prairie. It's just keeps going.
Yeah, like when you're surfing on the prairie. I get it.
That's right, man.
He's the naked rider.
Also, Russ, your listening face looks like you're taking a shit while listening to NPR.
That is what I'm doing.
It was that frozen chord in blue.
All right, we got 2 songs left. Too far gone. Here we go.
We're too far gone to finish this, Luke. I'm sorry.
I love this song. Can we talk, like...
Yeah, you want to know why this song's the best? Because fucking BK is singing in it.
I know. Is he singing in it?
Yeah, he's singing in it.
I just love the track order of this whole album.
Also Poncho on Mando. Are you kidding me?
That's Poncho.
Yeah.
And the sun was on the lawn, empty pillow with perfume on. I smelled it.
Yeah.
Well, we met in my favorite bar.
Oh, listen to Ben.
Right in my old car.
Oh, goddamn.
But I still don't know how we made it home. Was I too far gone? Too far gone?
So good.
Too far gone?
Yeah, that's Ben.
This definitely has a drinking chorus.
Oh,
This,
yeah.
you know what this kind of reminds me of, Shu? And let me know if you agree with this. It's got like a sort of a Dead Flowers by the Stones
Yes.
sort of vibe. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, once
Send
you
you
said that.
dead flowers.
Yeah,
It's
in my
sort
head
of,
when you
yeah.
said that. Yeah.
This is top 3 for me. I think this song is fucking awesome.
This was my 4th. It didn't make my top 3, but this song, to me, this is why I love Neil. So I'm sure Patterson and Russ, you guys think about this. Track order is way more important than people give it credit for. But this album is perfectly tracked. The order is great. And this song could have been the end, and it would have been a perfect album. And the fact that he throws on the electric, that he bookends it with the electric version of Rockin' in the Free World, it makes it even better. But I don't know. This song's fucking great.
This is another song he wrote in the 70s. And he kind of brought it back. And there's the really good version on that Songs for Judy live album they put out.
Yeah.
That was like from 1977 or 76, mid 70s around then. And he kind of does a pretty funny story before that about people yelling out to play his old stuff. And he's like, yeah, we'll get to it. Whatever. I want to play this thing I just wrote right now. Just being Neil to the audience.
Fucking Neil, man.
And on that note, we'll get to Songs for Judy in 2023.
That's
likely.
right.
All right. Wanted me to hit the last one here?
Let's rock the free world.
Yeah, let's fucking rock it.
Yeah.
Give me the Christmas.
It's really hard to sing harmonies over Zoom.
Yeah.
Russ, you're killing it. It's just like a half a second behind.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
It's fine.
I don't give a fuck. This
is
is a goddamn SCC right here, man. This is a stone cold classic.
For sure.
This is, man. This is a great tune.
I mean, come on.
Verse in the electric version.
Yeah.
The one with the George H.W. Bushisms in it, the 1,000 points of light and kinder, gentler. I mean, Patterson, I'm imagining we're around the same age, but those were like catchphrases for George H.W. Bush. Like, we were going to give up on, helping people. The government's going to give up on helping people. And we're going to leave that to the 1,000 points of light, which were basically, he was just naming off churches and church charities. And we're going to leave it up to them to help the homeless people, the homeless man and stuff
You're trying to reach out to the people who were disenfranchised by Reaganism by being the kinder and gentler Republican, even though he wasn't, he's still, I probably grudgingly have more respect for HW than I do Reagan, because at least he was a real war hero, and he was, but he also gave us Clarence Thomas,
right?
And
Clarence
Thomas and his fucking son.
Yeah. And that was the thing. It was like it was just smoke and mirrors. We're going to be a kinder and gentler country. Then we're going to invade Panama.
Right.
Kinder, gentler machine gun hand is
right. We're going to go back.
That is fucking lyric,
man. Back the Panama Canal and all that stuff. And so I love it. Of
course, Neil Young had very strong feelings about the Panama Canal.
Did he really?
Oh, that's why he endorsed Reagan.
Yeah.
In 80.
We talked about
he turned on Carter because of the Panama Canal. He was so mad about the way Carter handled the Panama Canal treaty thing that's why he, even though he couldn't actually vote, because he was Canadian, he came out for Reagan in 1980.
Holy shit. I didn't know that at all.
And that was the big issue. That was the driving issue, because he was offended about the Panama Canal.
Yeah, he was big on Reagan's foreign policy thing.
Right.
We talked about that, because especially when we were on Hawks and Doves, and when we were getting into the 80s, and we were like, man, it's so weird that he had that time, because now he is what he is now. He's all Black Lives Matter. He's Bernie. He's, and so it's just so fucking strange to me that
we should point out that Bernie used "Rockin' in the Free World" a couple times, and it was fine.
Oh yeah, he likes Bernie. He's all about Bernie.
Yeah, because Bernie's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my Bernie sign right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was openly endorsing Bernie, and he was part of one of the last Bernie rallies there was.
That's why he became a United States citizen.
The digital one.
The
digital one.
Yeah. But anyway, this has been Freedom.
Yeah.
Youngsters. Thank you for hanging out. Patterson, thank you so much for hopping on to this episode.
Hey man, I'm thrilled. I've had a blast. It's been like getting to hang out with new friends, and
hell yeah,
really mean that. I've loved it, and there's nothing I love more than geeking out about a record. So I got to ask y'all before we go though. So Freedom, top 5 Neil Young records for you? But anybody would put Freedom in their top 5 favorite Neil Young albums?
Probably after doing this episode, probably. But we have to get through all of them first.
I'm tempted to say yes, but I feel like I'm
hard, but
I'm swayed because it's been such a long road to get to it. But it's been so enjoyable for me. I think, like I said, the past 2 weeks I've listened to this album 20 times at least, getting ready for this. I have fucking 20 pages of notes. I think I've looked at them twice. I've tried to look at them.
The reason it's so hard is because those early records are so goddamn good. Like I can't give up. Yeah, I just can't give up with. I can't drop On the Beach after the Gold Rush.
Zuma.
Yeah.
Even like Tonight's the Night, and honestly, even Reactor still.
And everybody knows this is Nowhere. Yeah, we all loved Reactor. We were all blown away. We didn't.
It ain't top 5, but I love Reactor. I think it's super underrated and very important.
Yeah,
I would say because of when this album came out, I would hover it close to the 5th or 6th spot, at least right now for me, as far as top. If I'm picking my top 5.
So, it might slip in for me. If I'm forgetting something, but I'm thinking Tonight's the Night. Everybody knows this is Nowhere. Russ Never Sleeps. Zuma. Zuma's such a great album.
Zuma. I love Zuma.
Zuma's my number 1 right now.
So Patterson, this is definitely top 5 for you though, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It's the dark horse in the top 5. I mean, the other 4 are easy for me.
Yeah.
But but when I re-immerse myself in it after all these years, it's like, I mean, it's an important Neil Young record, and it's really close to being top 5 for me.
And I mean, you think about this song, especially this version. I mean, when you were on AAF, this must have been the Neil song you played the most, right?
Yeah, almost every day, and it still is on a lot of rock stations, classic rock stations. This is more than Cinnamon Girl or
Down by the River. This has to be one of the this was his comeback. I mean, this was 100% like there's no denying this song, you know.
Yeah.
And so I mean, yeah, it's really tough. I agree. But I'm gonna have to give it some thoughts.
Can we do a quick top 3 songs off this album? We should do that because we do that every record. I'll give you mine first.
But I mean, we should talk more about this song, but I guess we're running out of time. But I mean, the end, the guitar at the end. I mean, it's fucking. This will be a 2-parter, I'm sure. But my top 3, my number 3 is Broadway. I fucking love that cover. My number 2 is the acoustic version of Rockin' in the Free World, and my number 1 is Don't Cry. That song like ripped my heart out. So,
want me to go next?
Yeah.
All right. My number 3 is Don't Cry, and that guitar part will always get me. It'll always just like tickle the back of my balls every time I fucking hear it, man. It's unbelievable. And then No More is my number 2. And El Dorado is my number 1.
I knew that was going to be your number 1.
I love that song so much. It is so awesome.
All right, Russ, man, you're up. Oh, unless you want to go, Patterson.
I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah, go for it.
Number 3, probably No More for me. Number 2 is tough because it would almost have to be a tie between Don't Cry and El Dorado. But number 1's Crime in the City because I love Crime in the City. Although I do prefer the live version on Weld, but this is the version that needed to be on this record, and they're both so great.
Yeah, nice.
What about you, Russ?
3 is Too Far Gone. 2 is No More. And 1 is the electric version of Rockin' in the Free World. Just because, I mean, you don't get any. You don't
get the third verse in the acoustic version.
Well, that, and also this album we wouldn't. I mean, who knows what the world would be without that? That's the electric version of. Mm-hmm. We don't know what Neil would. I mean, to me, as much as I actually enjoy other songs on this album a little more. I think this song has to be number 1 for me because it is what it is.
Yeah.
And because I
agree on that.
Yeah.
So I have to make it my number 1.
If you had to pick a cut song, not that you would cut any song, but if you had to pick one, what do you got? I'll tell you right now, mine is Wrecking Ball.
Mine's Wrecking Ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's Someday.
Okay. You don't have to answer Patterson if you don't want.
Yeah, he does. He's on the episode. He has to.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be so lame to cut it, but probably on Broadway. And I love on Broadway, but I don't know. I mean, they're really all pretty essential, which is saying a lot for an album that's an hour and a minute long. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah. It's fucking solid from beginning to end. This was I'm glad that we're finally at the point again. Remember the first honestly 10 albums, Russ, you never wanted to pick a cut song. You're like, I can't pick one. I don't want to cut any of those.
Dude, on the beach, I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't do it.
Yeah. But no. So anyway, I'm happy to be back at that point. So
yeah.
How fucking cool is it that we're sitting here with Patterson Hood and
fucking
awesome. Truckers? You went through. You were the first special guest of ours to go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
We've done interviews.
Well, it's been fun, y'all. Thanks for having me.
We interviewed Nils Lofgren and Danny Korchmar and Mark Mothersbaugh, and you're the first one that actually went through the whole going through all the songs and everything. And it's an honor, man. We really appreciate it. And I know it's been tough with the pandemic and everything, and I know it's you, like you said, you sort of felt there was times where you were flashing back to being 27 and in a really dark time. And I hope that whether it be the records you've put out or listening to Neil again, or just being a little more encouraged maybe by things that are going on now, I hope that you've sort of are coming out of that dark place, and we've really enjoyed your light here today with us.
Absolutely,
and you're an inspiration for so many people, including us. And for anyone who's listening that's also in that dark period, I hope they feel some light and some joy, and that it's not, you don't need to give up. And you know, if you've learned anything from listening to this, if you're in a dark place, just know, keep on rocking, you know, because
and if you're in that dark place, don't try to go it alone. If you know, there is help out there. Get it if you need it. I mean,
Absolutely.
do it. Do it. You know, everyone I know has lost somebody this year because of that too, in addition to all the other things we've lost people to this year. So
we really love you, man, and we really appreciate you coming on, and it means a lot to us, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been really been fun. And hey, chlamydia for Christmas.
We're gonna be looking forward to you sending us that track, man. And I always say this to all our guests too, our special guests, is that we shamelessly plug. So Luke and I will probably want to send you our record.
Yeah, we'll send you some shit.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Will,
let's get each other's emails and everything. Let's do that.
But this has been Long May You Young. If you haven't checked it out, The Unraveling came out earlier this year, but the new OK came out only a few months ago on October 2nd by the Drive-By Truckers. Most of our fans are also Drive-By Truckers fans because they're fans of good music. But if you haven't checked it out yet, the new OK, it literally helped to get me through the latter part of this year. So definitely check it out. Long May You Young fans.
It comes out on vinyl in a week, and I think about a week and a half. It comes out on vinyl finally too.
Nice. Is there a link? Is there the we can post? We'll email back and forth. But the link for to get that on vinyl, we'll have posted that on all our socials.
And do you care if we share the video of you covering "Rockin' in the Free World" on our website?
No, I'm totally. So long as Neil don't come after me, I'm totally.
That's a good point. But also on that note, we have a website now, longmayyoungpodcast.com. It covers our serious notes and probably our most ridiculous parts as well. It's going to get more ridiculous as time goes on because we have way too much free time on our hands. And me and Russ are in town meeting, as everyone knows, and hopefully we'll be announcing 2021 dates.
We'll
at
see.
some
hopefully,
point.
Hopefully.
Who knows? And then those will get canceled because people won't wear.
And then people can be on the lookout for the Drive-By Truckers town meeting single
Christmas chlamydia
for Christmas.
Chlamydia for Christmas.
With, of course, songwriting credits also going to Shu for coming up with the.
Hell yeah.
Just chlamydia on the brain.
And I should, on a very final note, Russ, man, I know you'll appreciate this. I do want to do a quick, very special shout out to one of my favorite local bands, Chris Ross in the North from Maine, who turned me on to you guys probably years and years ago. They're big fans of yours. Chris Ross, one of my favorite songwriters. He's up in Maine. And thanks, Chris, for turning me on to the Truckers. And thank you, Patterson, for being part of this podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you, Patterson.
Much love, brother. Take care.
Bye.
Keep on rocking, youngsters.